Well, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Jusuf Wanandi, and as expected, I would like to tell two parts, actually, of my life activities. One, in the educational field, which I started after graduation by teaching first at the senior high of Kanisius College here, SMA Kanisius. And then I went to become an assistant professor at the School of Law of the University of Indonesia between 1960 and 65. In 64, I was induced or asked to join my dean then at the School of Law to the Supreme Advisory Council. And that was led by the former President Soeharto. That was the 1 year, and it was in 64. So 1 year before 65, it was a turbulent year, as you can imagine. But I was involved also at the Supreme Advisory Council on the educational system to be established in Indonesia. And then, because of the circumstances of 65, I entered politics and was on the street for 6 months with the students while I was already a lecturer, and then went into politics completely between 67 and 1988. I was a member of the of the Central Board with the Golkar Party, that I was being able, together with my colleagues and also the military, very important, re-establish an amalgamation of many organizations, about 260 mass organizations consisting of alim ulamas, women, students, youth, intellectuals, and the military into one party, the Golkar Party, and ran the first election of 1971. So that is the second part. But let me now start with education. Well, education as health, maybe, are the two mainstays of development and modernization. And that's why it's critically important that we pay attention to education as well as has been explained, health. And those two pillars has been definitely paid attention to by the government, and the government and the leaders of our society know that those two pillars are critical for our modernization in the future. Well, I have to admit, education has been paid more attention to than health. Health was later. Now there is enough attention to health because we know education not paired with health is a non-starter. So that's why I think education now has got 20% of our national budget. That was an effort for many years before we reached that level. But again, it is not only the money and the amount of money that we spend. It is for what purpose we spend it. And what is the education really for? And in that context, what system do we would like to establish to make education a real instrument for development and modernization? And that, of course, has always been a perennial problem for us. We have many ministers of education with due respect, but we don't have many visionaries among them who has been able to put our system into a real forward-looking and as well as practical. As you know, we have been colonized by the Dutch and I don't want to blame the Dutch for everything, but one of the things that we have followed was the educational system of the Dutch. And this is a very one-sided one, because they are only looking for the white collar at the end, professionals. And they don't want, or they have not been able really, according to me, maybe that has changed, because Germany has been given the model of modern system of education, where theories and thinking goes hand in hand with practice and work at the same time. Most probably in high schools of Germany now, more than 50% of the education consists of work, either in the factories, in the industries, or also in the white-collar field of, administration and organization. So therefore, what we actually have to do here is really, especially, with so many millennials, so many young people that has been explained by the minister, most probably what we should do then is also follow gradually, not immediately, because that is impossible. Maybe within one generation, we could transfer the system into a more practical oriented system. So what we need is more professional and vocational trainings. We don't have them. We have some, but they are not well equipped. As you know, they were at one time, the schools, of these vocational trainings have no practice almost in their training programs. So they have only a few theories, and they have much time, because part of the time that should be spent on practice, actually, they are doing that by fighting each other and throwing stones at each other, as you remember. That hopefully now is over. And we have to look for more vocational trainings to start with. And of course, the problem might be the limitations of money then. But now with 20% of the budget, we could do a lot more. Although again, this budget of 20% is not all going to the training of youngsters. They are also used for seminars at the other departments, and for stupidities in the other departments, but be paid by the budget of education, which is not fair and also not useful. And then what we need is like Singapore has done. They have actually more practical trainings also at a higher level. And that is also lacking here. We have one. My brother is a priest who is heading one of the schools in Solo. This actually vocational training at the tertiary level. But we don't have enough. But Jokowi has paid attention to that and tried to expand, of course. But first, he has to have a very good Minister of Education who knows it and would like to also to divert his budget to that effort. If not, it's not coming to the fruit of realities that we need in the future. So that is a very critical issue for us. We have to put a system where the private sector is participating in training our young people. So 50%, as I said, in Germany, maybe in our case, maybe 30, 40%, we should have them trained in the factories. So maybe 50, 60% is theoretical, but 40% at least should be also practical. That needs some change, and that needs a lot of money to go behind it. And I think if we can induce the private sector to do that, give them the facilities too, we have to reward them by willing to do that. And most probably what we should do is have a tax system, giving them bonus, giving them tax holidays, giving them even discounts in their taxes, to be able to do this part, training our people at the same time while educating them. So this, I think, is the next, hopefully, the next, big problem that the Department of Education is going to face in the future. And I hope if Jokowi is going to be re-elected, that this idea of his to be able to expand the system of education to the efforts of practicalities, then I think that will be the best. That will be going for us in the future for our youth. And you definitely, hopefully, in this system that you are now having, have some inkling what that means. And therefore, maybe if you are becoming leaders and ministers of education, not ministers of health, but minister of education, hopefully that idea can be implemented to a very large extent for our people. Then we have people that is not only equipped with theories, but equipped with practicalities and practice, doing it with their own hands. The problem is we don't maybe less need the engineers than the handyman that is not being trained now. Nobody is training them. And so therefore in the building business now, they are hijacking all these laborers that has some and actually some practicalities equipped. And that is definitely show only how much we do need them. So that is number one. So education is a critical issue, and we are still struggling to establish our system and, of course, implement them. I hope that it is not only confined to the budget, but also to the system and to the purpose what is education is for in the future. Now, let me go to the second part of my life, and that was, of course, politics. I've been in politics, practical politics, for 20 years over, and helping Soeharto, and I was member of the People's Congress or the People's Consultative Assembly for 4 terms of 20 years, 5 years each. And of course, I know you are very maybe tired of politics, and not only tired, maybe also you are fed up with our politics, and not our politics only. You see that now internationally, politics internationally has become a curse instead of a blessing. Politics should be a very noble exercise. Politics is to aim for the welfare of the people. That is the end, actually, idea or the end results of politics has to be. But again, I do admit, and I'm also very much repulsed, because of our own politics that has gone so low. You know that political parties, parliament, and the politicians are the lowest ranking group in public opinion, even lower than the police. So that is definitely a very critical issue for our future, because politics should be, despite the excesses, despite the corruption, should be a very important part in establishing our societies. At this juncture, states, governments, politics for that matter, is a matter of people's interests and people's welfare. And of course, that is not being paid attention to. You have this case of Setnov, if you know, this Speaker of the House, which is really amazing, filthy. And that's why most probably you are fed up with politics. But I would like to argue with you. You have to stand up to make politics much more noble, as it should be, much more purposeful for the people instead of self-interest or group interest. And that needs definitely, a change of heart, a change of mind. You have to see that politics is a critical ingredient in the development of the society. Because only through politics you can reach out to all our people. Groups in society, and that means also philanthropies, are very important part, but it's not adequate. Only the state has the means and the wherewithal and the capabilities to really do it for the whole of our people. So that's why we have to stand up and make politics healthy again. And that is a very important, but a critical, but also very, very difficult thing to do. But that is why I would like to impose on you, actually, as the potential leaders of the country, to think about these issues and to not despise that easily, because it's a critical element in building a society, and therefore you have to make it better for the future. When I was 65, as I said, I was actually, because of circumstance, that I went join politics, because I was always planning to become a professor. And in 65, actually, I was planning to go to the United States for my PhD in law. I was accepted. And there was already a scholarship for me from the American government. But then in May 65, all that changed when I attended the 45th anniversary of the Communist Party at Gelora Bung Karno, the big, of course, the big stadium, 150,000 people, with representations from Vietnam, China, and Bung Karno was there. And Bung Karno was so critical, in line with what the people, with what the Communist Party would like to do, that he said, you are not family, you are not kinship, but if you die, I will lose you, and I will lose, the future. So these are things that were so critical for me. And I said and decided then, when I went back from that big hurrah at the stadium, I cannot go. So I decided not to go and just fight it out in the country. And in a way that changed my life, because I went into politics and tried. It was not easy, but we have only the military then that has the capability to develop this country. So we work with them. We advise them. We try to make them more open. Not that we have succeeded, in all things. But in many practical things, we have been able to change, actually, the system somewhat, the severity of military rule somewhat. And that is a step forward that makes it possible that after 98, when Soeharto stepped down, we could establish a reasonable, working democracy. So that, I think, is an effort that we then could do and need to do. Despite, together with the military, we try to open up the system and prepare the youngsters especially, and the people, that there will be a better, open democratic system in the future. And we did that. So therefore, I argue with you, you are the next generation to take over, the leadership in the country, in every field. And you have a role to play in politics. Don't despise politics. Make it better. Make it again noble, to fight for the people's interests. Then I think we will be a much better country in the future, where we like our system, like our culture, like our laws, as well as our regulations, and what we are used to, tradition, and that is communalism. We do it together for everybody, and that should be actually the ideal of good politics. So I argue here, I don't know whether my time is over now, but anyhow, I argue two things: a good education system critical, and you have to look into that also, so that when the time comes, you have a say in this field. Do the right thing, put up the right system, and gear the money also for the right purpose. And in politics, more critical even, more important even, I would like to argue, be a noble politician, everybody in their heart. Thank you.